Michael, Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, give a smile. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, give a smile. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, give a smile. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, be the reason someone smile. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, give a smile. Gebash Michael, Gebash Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Besimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Besimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Besimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Besimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, 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 Besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Siva Gedola, Leo Besimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Besimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Besimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Besimcha. Someone smile. Be the reason someone smile. Be the reason someone smile. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles.
And gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla raba emunatecha.
In East Orange, New Jersey, Uppsala College. Found a college radio station in East Orange, New Jersey, Uppsala College. They had a 24-hour broadcast license, 91.1 FM. but they only broadcast from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Otherwise, they were shut down.
4 a.m.'s your sweet spot.
So I didn't, I lived in Brooklyn. I believe me, for almost 3 years, I drove out every day to East Orange, New Jersey.
So you took them up on it
in the most unbelievable weather, and we contracted with them for a small amount of money. It was a non-commercial radio station.
How old were you at that time?
22, 23.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Ellie. It is Thursday, the 18th day of January, the 8th day of Shevat. The Torah portion is Bo. HaYom Yom Chamishi l'Shabbos. Today is the 5th day, counting up towards Shabbos. We'll be learning the 5th Aliyah. Good morning, how are you? Are you snowed in? Did you get bad weather? Did you get good weather? I don't know. I don't know where you are. You have to tell me, all right? We have so much exciting stuff to do today. So let's get started. Men and boys, take your two front sitzes. Let's make a bracha. I'll tell you in a minute. Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right. Everyone together, Al Divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Reini Mikabel.
Hareini mikabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
All right, Torah Tziva.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
All right, and that means it gives some tzedakah.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
Thank you so much for your cooperation. That takes us to the set of the Shema. Right hand over your eyes, please.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuso Le'olam Va'ed Ve'ahavta Eis Adonai.
And that, of course, takes us to breakfast. Hold on one second. I'm just having a field day with this over here. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll be good. Hold on one second. All right. Coffee and cottage cheese this morning. The other half of my cottage cheese. All right, are you ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah bidvaroi. Delicious.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, wish I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
And that takes us to today in Jewish history. You know what? I didn't post this. Here, let's do that. Okay. Today in Jewish history, I'm getting to it. Don't worry. I know. I lost it for a second, but I'm going to be right back with it. All right. Today was the end of the period of the Zikanim, the elders, those who were contemporaries of Joshua and outlived him. The last of the elders passed away in the year 2533 after creation, 1228. They were part of the chain of Torah transmission listed in the beginning of the Ethics of the Fathers. Moshe Kibul Torah Sinai. Moshe got the Torah on Sinai and gave it to Yeshua, who gave it to the elders, and the elders to the prophets. This day was marked as a fast day in times gone by. We mourning the loss of the elders, whom we relied on for so much, for so long. All right, hold on one second. I just want to see if I think there was one more thing that I wanted to share with you. If you let me find it here. Yes. No. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay, because we have things to do. I know I'm behind. Apparently, I missed something. I missed a big one. There was this amazing song written by A.B. Rottenberg called "The Man from Vilna." I don't know if you heard about it. I don't know if you ever heard it, but excuse me. The story goes like this. In the fall of 1945, a Soviet soldier hoisted a 5-year-old boy aloft and paraded him through a Lithuanian synagogue that had been closed throughout a long Nazi occupation. For 65 years, the boy and that soldier carried the moment in their heads and hearts. Unknown to each other, they told the story to their family and friends. A Toronto songwriter, A.B. Rottenberg, memorialized it in a song. The boy became a man and included the anecdote in his 2003 autobiography. Well, they finally met. First, I'm going to play you the song, and the song has an amendment to the real people in it. So please, watch this and enjoy.
First time to go to synagogue, he picked the. You can imagine this was Simchas Torah, the year of liberation, which is, but still, Jews celebrated life, and I liked it. And they sang and they danced because it was Simchas Torah. And a Russian officer came over to my father and asked him whether I was Jewish because I was blind then, and said to my father, said, yeah. And he said he traveled thousands of kilometers as a Russian officer, didn't see a Jewish child at this age.
Met a man last Sunday who was on his way back home. from a wedding in Chicago and was traveling alone. He said he came from Vilna, a survivor I could tell, and I helped him with his suitcase. He could not walk very well. A steward gave us coffee as we settled on the plane, and I asked him why he bothers. At his age there'd be no blame. He said no simcha is a burden, though I miss my dear late wife. And then he shared with me a story that has changed my view of life. I remember liberation, joy and fear, both intertwined. Where to go and what to do, and how to leave the pain behind. My heart said, go to Vilna, dare I pray yet once again, for the chance to find a loved one, or perhaps a childhood friend. It took many months to get there, from the late spring to the fall. And as I, many others, close to 400 in all. And slowly there was healing, darkened souls now mixed with light. When someone proudly cried out, Simchas Torah is tonight. We ran as one towards the shul, our spirits in a trance, and tore apart the barricade. In defiance we would dance, but the scene before our eyes shook us to the core. Scraps of cedar, bullet holes, and blood stains on the floor. Turning to the eastern wall, we looked on in despair. There'd be no scrolls to dance with, the holy ark was bare. Then we heard two children crying, a boy and girl whom no one knew. And we realized that no children were among us but those two. We danced round and round in circles, as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah, together in our arms, in their place we held those children the Jewish people would live on. We danced round and round in circles, as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah to clutch and hold up high, in their place we held those children, Am Yisrael Chai. We danced round and round in circles, as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah, together in our arms, in their place we held those children, the Jewish people would live on. The Jewish people would live on. The Jewish people will live on. We danced round and round in circles, as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning.
After the war, where we were still living there, I came running back into the house, crying. They called me a dirty name. They called me Jid. I'm not a Jid. They told me, they didn't tell me that I'm a Jid. They said it's not a dirty name, and don't worry. But my father took me to synagogue the first time. And on the way to synagogue, I passed the church, and I crossed myself. And also on the way to church, I met a priest. I kissed his hand. I was properly trained. He took me to Simchas Torah. First time to go to synagogue, he picked me. You can imagine this was Simchas Torah, the year of liberation, which is, but still, Jews celebrated life. And I liked it. And they sang and they danced because it was Simchas Torah. And a Russian officer came over to my father and asked him whether I was Jewish. Blind then. And said, my father said, yeah. And he said he traveled thousands of kilometers as a Russian officer, didn't see a Jewish child of this age alive. And he said, could he take me to dance with? Took me on his shoulders and he danced with me. And I came home and I said to my mother, I like the Jewish church.
We danced round and round in circles as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah to clutch and hold up high, in their place we held those children, Am Yisrael Chai. We danced round and round in circles as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah to gather in our arms, in their place we held those children, the Jewish people would be Am Yisrael. The Jewish people would be The Jewish people will live on.
All right. Beautiful song, beautiful story. HaYom Yom for today. The 8th day of Shevat. Unbelievable story.
ותמחול את כל עוונותינו ביום הזה.
Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit sloppy. Say you're an athlete and you're just warming up for the game, or a doctor tidying his desk. A little sloppiness, no harm done. But there are moments when the subtle nuance of an individual will make or break a world championship, or spell the difference between life and death. Today's HaYom Yom is here to say that we stand at a critical moment in history, and the person whose every action has enormous implications now is you. Says today's HaYom Yom, at this time, when we stand at the threshold of Mashiach, when the world is to enter a new phase of global peace and spiritual awareness, at this time we must make every conceivable effort to strengthen every aspect of our tradition. Mitzvahs are to be observed in the most ideal and perfect way. Customs must be kept scrupulously. At this critical moment, we cannot afford to compromise. It is a mitzvah and duty of every rabbi to inform his congregation that the challenges that the Jewish people currently face are the birth pangs before we usher in this new era of Mashiach. God is demanding that we return to Torah and mitzvahs. At this critical moment, your next action will make all the difference. Make it a perfect one.
Beautiful. All right. Bossi Lagani.
Yeah.
So class number 22 of Basil. Hold on.
Good morning. So today we will conclude with the mimer of Basilagani, the series of Basilagani, all four Maimorim, by covering the last chapter, Perek Chaf. So in this Perek, the Rebbe summarizes what we've been discussing in the last five Perakim, which is the last mimer. And he begins by saying the following. We have been discussing the soul's life tasks. The soul did not descend into the body for its own sake, as the soul does not need correction. What does this mean? The previous Rebbe is saying that this neshama in and of itself is perfect. It is the neshama that he's referring to here is the nefesh elokis, which descends into the body and is enclosed within the body, and the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul. But the nefesh habahamis, the nefesh elokis, the godly soul, has no need of rectification because it's perfect. The reason that it descends into the body and is enclosed within the body and within the animal soul is because it needs to refine. The godly soul is used to refine materialism, to refine the human body, and to refine the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul, in which it is enclosed. It is the animal, in other words, it's the animal soul that needs to be elevated and refined, not the godly soul. Godly soul has no need for rectification. Now the Rebbe continues by saying, before this descent of the nefesh elokis, the godly soul, into the body, it was in a state of complete dveikus, complete cleaving to Hashem. This is a state that we still can reach through intense meditation. This state of dveikus is incredible, because in this state, the nefesh elokis is cleaving constantly to Hashem, has no separation from Him whatsoever. If you're familiar with the song by A.B. Rottenberg called Neshamale, he describes that whole descent process where the soul does not want to go down into the body. Now the Rebbe says something fascinating here. The reason that days were formed, the reason we have days, is literally because a person needs to have a certain amount of days that is allotted to them to live. For example, Adam Harishan, or David HaMelech, or whomever has a certain amount of days in which they are allotted to live, in which the soul has to do what the nefesh elokis has to do what it needs to do. It needs to refine and elevate materialism and subjugate the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And as we've explained in the previous Perakim, in order to subjugate the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul, and in order to subjugate the Yetzer Hara, and even in order to subjugate the idea of klipa in the universe around us, we have to strive for victory. Because what did we say? That victory, that netzach, comes from the very, very core of our neshama. Now the previous Rebbe says, which is true, that the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul, which can also be considered as part of our Yetzer Hara, challenges us. What's the Rebbe's word is vexes us. It's the thing that says, well, I should do tefillah. It's time for mincha. But I'm too busy playing my video game. Or I should learn some Gemara today. But it's a nice day and I'd rather play basketball. That's what the Nefesh HaBahamis says. The Yetzer Hara, the Klippa within us says to do, things that are not godly. And it does so when the opportunity comes up to do a mitzvah. That's when it's most active. When it is time to do a mitzvah, or when we have the opportunity to do a mitzvah, our Nefesh HaBahamis, our Yetzer Hara, comes up and it says, no, don't do the mitzvah. Go eat a pizza. Because that's more fun. No, don't do a mitzvah. Go back and go to bed and take a nap. These thoughts and inclinations are, be'emes, nothing more than simple distractions. Because, and we know this, because when we're just walking down the street or doing something casually, we don't have these thoughts. If we're in casual conversation with someone, our neshama is not going, hey, don't talk to this person. Do a mitzvah. But when we go to do a mitzvah, the Yetzer Hara says, no, don't do the mitzvah. Go have a casual conversation with someone or go watch Netflix. And that's why we have to stand firm and we have to fight that Yetzer Hara, that Nefesh HaBahamis, that Klippa, that tells us not to do a mitzvah or not to learn Gemara. And what happens is that when we strive for victory, when we fight against the Yetzer Hara and the idea, the inyan of Klippa, we can together refine and elevate ourselves, refine and elevate the universe. We can vanquish Klippa, we can vanquish Sitra Achra, and make Kedusha rule the world. And, of course, we can bring about the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mheira V'yumeinu Mamish. And that concludes the Maimer series of Basi Lagani from Tafshin Yud by the Friedrich Rebbe. Thank you all for joining me in this beautiful adventure of learning Chassidus and delving into the Friedrich Rebbe's words. And if you like what you've learned, let Rabbi Elli know and we can continue learning Maimorim. Yasher Koyach. Have a wonderful day.
All right, and tomorrow, God willing, we will go into some of the observances for Yud Shvat. We'll take care of that tomorrow because Shabbat is Yud Shvat, the 10th day of Shvat, and so we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Okay, all right. In the meantime, a word from our sponsors. And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidall.com.
PestProRidall.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidall.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to TarzaneGroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at TarzaneGroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's Orchid blog.
And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications. Logos, wall hangings, Judaica. And you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text.
Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/newcomputer. Those are the important things to go to right now. And to all those who have already given to our campaign, thank you so much. We're still short, but we're getting there. All right, Thursday, Rabbi Sachs Conversation, Part 1.
Telling the story. Go to Washington and make a tour of the memorials, and you'll make a fascinating discovery. Begin at the Lincoln Memorial with the giant statue of the man who braved civil war and presided over the ending of slavery. On one side of that memorial, you'll see the Gettysburg Address, that masterpiece of brevity with its invocation of a new birth of freedom. And on the other side, the great Second Inaugural with its message of healing, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Then walk down the Potomac Basin and you see the Martin Luther King Memorial with its 16 quotes from the great fighter for civil rights, among them his 1963 statement, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." And giving its name to the monument of, as a whole, a sentence from the "I Have a Dream" speech, "Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope." Keep going along the tree-lined avenue bordering the water and you arrive at the Roosevelt Memorial, constructed as a series of 6 spaces, one for each decade of his public career, each with a passage from one of the defining speeches of the time. Most famously, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And lastly, bordering the basin at its southern edge is a Greek temple dedicated to the author of the American Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. Around the dome are the words he wrote to Benjamin Rush. "I've sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." And defining the circular space are 4 parades, each with lengthy quotations from Jefferson's writings, among them one from the Declaration itself. Each of these 4 monuments, in other words, is built around a text and it tells a story, or built around texts, and each tells a story. Now go to London and walk around the monuments, especially those in Parliament Square. The memorial to David Lloyd George contains 3 words, David Lloyd George. The one to Nelson Mandela has 2, Nelson Mandela. And the one to Sir Winston Churchill, just 1 word, Churchill. Now, Winston Churchill was a man of words. In his early life a journalist, later a historian, author of almost 50 books, and the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was a man who delivered as many speeches and coined as many unforgettable sentences as Jefferson or Lincoln, Roosevelt or Martin Luther King, but not one of his utterances is engraved on the plinth beneath his statue. He is memorialized only by his name. Why the difference? The reason is that Britain and the United States have a quite different political and moral culture. England is, or was until recently, a tradition-based society. In such societies, things are as they are because that's how they were since time immemorial. It's unnecessary to ask why. Those who belong, know. Those who need to ask, show that they don't belong. American society is different, because from the Pilgrim Fathers onward it was based on the concept of covenant, as set out in Tanakh, especially in Shemot and Devarim, Exodus and Deuteronomy. The early settlers were Puritans in the Calvinist tradition, the closest Christianity ever came to basing its politics on the Hebrew Bible. Covenantal societies are not based on tradition. The Puritans, like the Israelites 3,000 years earlier, were revolutionaries, attempting to create a new type of society, one unlike Egypt, or in the case of America, one unlike England. Michael Walzer called his book on the politics of the 17th century Puritans The Revolution of the Saints. They were trying to overthrow the tradition that gave absolute power to kings and that maintained established hierarchies of class.
And we will conclude that tomorrow, God willing. In the fifth Aliyah, very short, Moshe gathers the Israelite elders and conveys to them the instructions that Hashem has given him regarding Pesach and the exile. Here is Chumash and Rashi with Rabbi Avtzon. Fantastic. All right, and that takes us to Parsha Points with Rabbi Epstein. Here we go. So frustrating. Sorry about that.
Parsha Points Bo for Thursday. Well, this is definitely got to be the end, because once you paint your doorposts with the blood of their God and kill their firstborn, there's no working it out after that. However, it's quite interesting that Hashem requires us to paint those doorposts with hyssop, not a paintbrush. Hyssop grows on the ground. This is not about gloating, it's about being humble. It's the defiance that comes from strength, not arrogance. Careful distinction there. Be strong, be proud, but not prideful. It's like, hurry up, but don't rush. Be strong and defiant, not harsh.
All right. Shnayim Yomi.
Good day, everybody, and welcome once again. This is the 5th day that we are learning together Parshas Bo. The Aliyah is Chamishi, and the Aliyah begins by speaking about the actual bringing of the Korban Pesach and its purpose. And its purpose was that we would take the blood of this Korban Pesach and we would put it as a sign on our doorposts, on the side and on top of the lintel. And by that, Hashem would know that we are a home of Am Yisrael. We are the Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Hashem would Pasach al Bate Bnei Yisrael, would skip over our homes, and he would go only by Makas HaBachoros to the other homes. Interesting enough, the Torah, when it describes the process of this mitzvah, the Torah says, Mishchu ukechu, draw and take. What is the word mishchu? Just say, take the sheep. What is mishchu, draw? So draw technically means to do a mishicha, to pull and take and make a kinyan. But what is the purpose in describing that? Of course, we know we have to take the animal. The Medrash says, fascinatingly enough, because we know that at this time, Hashem took us out when we were in the Memtes Shari Tuma. We were very engulfed with Avodah Zarah. And at this time, we had the mitzvah of Korban Pesach, which was unique to the whole future of the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. In what way? In a few different ways, but one most fundamental way was this time that we had the Korban Pesach. The very first time, we were commanded to take the Korban Pesach on Yud Nisan. That's our Shabbos Hagadol, Yud Nisan. It was Shabbos, and we took it, and we had to take it specifically 4 days before we were actually going to slaughter it on Erev Pesach on the 14th of Nisan. And why is that? Why only at this time, at this juncture, the first time we're taking the Korban Pesach, we had to take it 4 days before? The Mefarshim tell us it was because we need to mishchu. Mishchu means we had to draw away from the Avodah Zarah. And when you draw away from an Aveira that you are so engulfed and so entrenched in, it takes time. It can't just happen overnight. No one becomes a saint overnight. It takes time. So we first had to go step by step. First, we took that sheep, which was represented Avodah Zarah, and we grabbed it and we showed the Mitzrayim that we're going to not do Avodah Zarah with it, but just the opposite. We're going to bring it to our HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the real HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that was step one. And that was necessary at this particular time, and only the first year. After that, Baruch Hashem, whenever we had the Beis HaMikdash and we were able to perform the Korban Pesach, it wasn't so necessary to do this mishchu, to draw away from Avodah Zarah. That's what the Medrash tells us. And then we took that blood and we dipped the hyssop into the blood from that Korban Pesach, put it on our doorpost to a sign that we are serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not serving any Avodah Zarah. Have a good day.
All right. And that takes us to the Chief Rabbi of England.
Was Moshe coming or going? At the beginning of Parashat Bo, Hashem gives him a command, Bo el Paro, which means, come to Pharaoh. And Hashem was actually instructing Moshe to go to Pharaoh. So why did he say Bo? And you will notice that the whole Sedra is named after this term. The KOSHER Rebbe gives a beautiful explanation. He says that Hashem could sense that Moshe was feeling alone. After all, he was going to confront Pharaoh, king of Egypt, in his palace. He had the entire Egyptian nation pitted against him, and he also knew that his own people weren't passionately in support of him. Hashem wanted Moshe to know that Hashem was with him. At the burning bush, Moshe asked Hashem, Mi anochi ki elecha paro? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? And God's answer was, Ki eheyeh imach. I will be with you. And indeed, the Mechilta tells us, that's the Midrash, that at the time when Moshe was speaking to Pharaoh, he felt the voice of Hashem coming out of his mouth. Such was the palpable presence of the Almighty with Moshe at that time. And that's why Hashem said to Moshe, Bo el Paro, come, Moshe, come be with me, when the two of us will stand before Pharaoh. In Psalm 23, we declare, Lo ira ra ki ata imadi. We will not fear any evil, because God, you are with us. In times of trouble, indeed, when the Jewish people has a sense that we are alone in this world, Hashem reassures us and he says, no, I am with you. Sometimes Hashem walks alongside us, sometimes he carries us in his arms, but he is with us in the midst of deep challenges, and that exactly is the situation right now, at a time when we're filled with anxiety and worry for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. We know that Hashem is with us, and he will always be. Shabbat Shalom.
How beautiful is that? All right. A Torah short to end off with.
What is the secret of conveying real values to our children? We all wish for our children to have the right ideals, to live with those ideals well into their adult life, and to convey those ideals to their own children. But often we're not sure how we're supposed to get that through to them, especially in a highly permissive world, and especially at a time where morals are questioned and values keep changing. The Torah tells us that the secret of conveying real values to our children is to challenge our children to do the right thing when it doesn't feel comfortable. In a generation where our children are consistently told that they should do what works for them, what makes them feel good, it's refreshing and impactful to challenge our children to stand up for what's right, to do things because these are our values, even though they're not easy. And when they do that, those values become real, lasting, and a guide to their entire life ahead.
All right. And that takes us to Tehillim.
Al Yedei Amiras Tehillim, Al Yedei Amiras Tehillim, Al Yedei Amiras Tehillim, Tisoyrecha Vatzeles HaShoroin.
All right. The saying of Tehillim, you know the drill. Chapters 23 and 122.
David, Adonai Ro'i, lo echsar, binus teshe, yarbitzeini, al memnuchos yinahaleini, nafshi shovev, yancheini v'magli tzedek, leman shemo, kam kilech begetz al moves, oirara, ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni, taroch lefanai, shulchan neged tzorrai, tishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya, ach, tov v'chesed yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'vis Adonai, le'orech yamim.
Shamala Yisrael, V'samachti v'yayim limli, V'salei no, Yinei Yilei, Oyim
They're doing Tanya for the 8th day of Shevat.
Tanya.
I'm telling you, time is just moving on over here. Here we go.
Tanya thoughts for the 8th of Shvat. Since Hashem is everywhere and everything and has not changed, why does life feel so detached from him? We've all seen this scenario. A child is frustrated with his homework assignment and turns to his parent for the answer. The loving parent guides the child toward the answer. The child whines, "Just tell me the answer." All the other kids' parents tell them, "You're not telling because you're mean or because you're incapable." At that moment, the child doesn't sense his parent's presence. He may even feel abandoned and unloved. Yet his parent is most present by resisting the urge to jump in and rescue the child. That is the doctrine of tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai, non-literal. Hashem restrains his expression by being so present that he will enable us to find ourselves and ultimately find him.
Let's talk Tanya for the 8th of Shvat of a leap year. In yesterday's Tanya, we started talking about the second strategy, what's called the short way, which the Alter Rebbe recommends for how to contend with the animal soul. And we explained yesterday that the second strategy is based on the fact that every single one of us, every Jewish person, has a natural hidden love for God. And just a matter of tapping into this love. And we ended off yesterday's Tanya asking a few questions about this hidden love. Where's it from? How does it function? What's its objective? And today we're going to start talking about where it's from. This hidden love, which every single one of us has naturally, is the most basic feature of our neshama, of our souls. So therefore, we're going to diverge a little, digress a little, and we're going to talk a little about our neshama. Where does the neshama come from? This Jewish soul that every single one of us has, this is something that we've inherited from our forefathers, from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because they did the work, they merited that every single one of their descendants, every single one of their Jewish descendants, has a Jewish soul. And what is the definition of a Jewish soul? A soul in which the infinite light of God is revealed within the soul of every single Jewish soul. And this is true regardless of the level of the soul. This is something we've explored earlier in chapter 2 in Tanya, that there are different levels of souls. There are 4 different spiritual worlds, which, as we continue throughout Tanya, we'll be talking more about the 4 worlds. There is the highest world is Atzilus, and then there's Bria and Yetzirah, and the lowest world is Asiya. And each one of us has a soul that's rooted in one of the levels of one of the worlds. But ultimately, even someone whose soul is rooted in the lowest level of the lowest spiritual world, within their soul also is shining the infinite light of God. By way of analogy, within every single one of us, there is that light. The question is, how bright is that light? In some of us, if you have a higher soul, the light is very bright. In some of us, if you have a lower soul, the light is less bright. But the common denominator in every single Jewish soul is that the light is there, this infinite light of God. So our forefathers, they did a lot of work. Avraham, he personally went and discovered God on his own, and then he went and he spread the word to all the people in his generation. And then we had Yitzchak followed in the ways of his father, and Yaakov followed in the ways of his father and his grandfather. And these were tremendously holy and righteous people. And whatever levels they had, they earned by way of their work. But because of their work, we don't need a work. Because of their work, every single one of us has a Jewish soul by way of inheritance. It's something that we have naturally. And because of that, every single one of us has the infinite light of God shining within our souls. What is the implication of having a Jewish soul? We'll discuss that, God willing, starting in tomorrow's Let's Talk Tanya.
Thank you for joining Tanya in 5. Today's lesson for the 8th of Shevat. We conclude chapter 21. Chapter 21 in one word is Hayichud, the unity of God. We're speaking here about the speech of God. In the previous chapter, we spoke about God himself. Before he created the world and after he created the world, there's no change in God. But how about the speech of God, which is the creative force of God? How do we understand that? How is that vis-a-vis God? How is that vis-a-vis us, that creative force of God? So the Alter Rebbe explains that the speech and the thought of God himself is absolutely united with his very essence, even after he speaks. In other words, after there's a materialization of a physical world, a creation, just the speech was part of the soul by way of example within the individual. It comes from the soul and it is totally there, bound up and united with the individual, the speech, the word that a person says. So as it is in God, that it is bound up and one with him, his power, creative power through speech. That is from God's perspective, and therefore there is no change. But from the created being, there's a great change. We came from non-entity to being now an entity, to being a created being, that God's light is enclosed in us. But what kind of light is enclosed in us? It's something that has a gradual descent, that has many tzimtzumim, contractions, veils of this light, because if the light were not to be veiled, we would be totally nullified and negated and would not be a being, would be non-being, part of that infinite light, until such a veiling of the light of God that we're able to be a being, that through these contractions of the light of God, that we do not recognize the countenance of God. We do not recognize our source. It's obscured from us. The light is concealed from us, that it's not revealed. Why is this, of course? Very simply, God creates this dynamic in order that therefore we should be able to look for the light of God, that we are now separate entities, separate from him, and as being separate entities from our perspective, we should come ultimately to perceive God's perspective, that we are truly united and one with him. Now, this again is only from our perspective, that speech is that something that emits from the soul, comes out. So likewise, the speech of God is emitted from him, as it were, in the sense that it is contracted and comes out. And from our perspective, we are now separate from him. But from God's perspective, once again, there is no concealment. The concealment is the darkness that it creates. The darkness and light are the same before God, because no darkness could obscure him. Why is that? Because the darkness is the power of God. It's not a separate entity. It's not something that is outside of him, that is creating this contraction of the light of God, but it is his own power himself. What is the metaphor the Alter Rebbe gives? Is like the snail or the turtle, that the shell that covers over the animal is a part of the animal. It's a covering, yet it's a part of. So likewise, the covering of God, that obscuring power of God, is a power of God that's not separate from him. And that's what it means, Hashem hu Elokim, that the Lord is God. That Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of God, that is the power of revelation. and the power, the creative force of God, that's the infinite force that is able to create something from nothing. Yet Elohim, which is the obscuring power of God, the restraining of the light, the contraction of the light, is indeed the same as God. I mean, it's the same God. The revealing power of God and the restricting power of God is all of Him Himself. Therefore, in God's presence, all else is of no account whatever. That is nothing else but Him, because the obscuring light is only from our perspective that the word emits, the speech of God emits, and therefore there's something comes out that is, from our perspective, a separateness, but from God's perspective, we are totally bound up in one with Him. And therefore, this is what gives us the possibility of coming to serve Him, that we should seek the light of God. And that's Tanya in 5. Thank you for joining.
Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam is up next.
No, it's not
you don't have Rabbi Tal. Very sorry.
Just study Rambam each and every day. I'll never miss
but
my daily Rambam. My never so desires. I'm not busy or too tired when I learn Rambam.
Continuing the list of mitzvahs that govern the laws of lending and borrowing money, we turn today to a new topic. Negative mitzvah 235 is the prohibition to lend another Jew money asking for ribis, for interest in return. That means if I lend you $100, I'm not allowed to ask for anything more than those $100. As the Rambam explains, logically, it's actually normal to ask for ribis on a loan, because just like any other goods or services that are provided, we ask for payment when you use them. So too, if you're going to have my cash for a number of days, weeks, or months, it's only right that I be able to ask for payment for that money when I get it back. Nevertheless, the Torah imposes a prohibition and says this is not allowed, even calling it neshech, a bite, because through asking for interest, you ultimately bite into the borrower's property and causing him great amounts of distress.
All right. And that takes us to matters of Mashiach. Right. He who plants with tears, Hazodim Bedima. The Egyptians embittered the lives of the Jewish people, and the Holy One, blessed be He, brought them a Redeemer. This is Miriam, called so because she felt the bitterness, mirur, of exile. Sometimes, in order to endure the difficulties of exile, we suppress our feelings and become numb. One of the first steps in Geula is feeling the bitterness of exile so strongly we simply cannot tolerate it any longer. The righteous women were extremely sensitive to the pain of Golus. They never accepted their bitter state. By cultivating this sensitivity to our true selves, as well as a sensitivity to how intolerable Golus really is, we will begin to leave Golus and move towards the era of Mashiach. Here's the Rebbe with a few words.
Schenken aber bis man den zusammen очень kol wie die Gemorde meid kol hakizin doch verstande kann es darf kommen es kommt teke vom Jahr der Gula mit es war schlimmer und kein schon zahl und es werden nicht verloren has wir schon mal viele keinen und einzigen nichts weil Jeden haben eine Teilnahme gefühlt sich schon 1900 Jahre in Golus, wie viel ist das hier zu warten und wie viel ist das hier zu sagen und wie viel kommen noch sagen, also bleiben ein Nichts in Golus, es hat dover Muschel legambre und es darf sein, Gehula Bishleimusa, mir ist mir meile alle Nitzuzis.
right, and now our PSAs.
People get that extra feel of love and that extra uplifting feel. As part of a charity, sometimes it's not only the food, the sustenance, it's making you feel the dignity of a human being and being part of the community. So making sure that there's
everyone a happy Rosh Hashanah who's celebrating. Meanwhile, the Masvia Soup Kitchen is helping families in need ring in the Jewish New Year by providing some staples for the holiday. The kitchen's chef cooked up fish heads as well as honeyed carrots and apples for those that will be at the soup kitchen. The nonprofit will be hosting those in need for the high Jewish holidays at all 3 of their city locations.
Pantry food and hot meals every day in Flatbush Borough Park and Queens. In Rockland County, tomcheshabbos.org, tomcheshabbos.org. In Lakewood, tomche.org. Chicago, the Chicago Center Kitchen at breakfastwithelli.live/Chicago Food Bank. Achiezer.org is there to help you out in times of need. They can help you out with absolutely everything. They are a most amazing organization that has their finger on the pulse of absolutely everything that's going on in the community. If you need something, they are there to help you, all right? Seriously, contact them if you need help with anything at all. Hatzalah EMS is available using the Hatzalah Global Assist app, available on the iOS and Android stores. Put it on your home screen today. Miss Askim, in times of bereavement, is there to help out. They can do everything from A to Z. They can help you make all the arrangements that you need in times when you can't think straight. It's impossible. But remember Miss Askim and give them a call. Just one Shabbos. All right. And while you're out and about, please be wearing a mask and get your vaccination. And bring some heaven down to earth. Yeah. A large group of visitors were preparing for their flight back to Israel when news came the Rebbe wished to address them. With bags half packed, they came running to listen, wondering how they would make the flight. The Rebbe spoke at length, seemingly oblivious to the time. And then the Rebbe said this. I know it's hard not to glance at your clock. It's an hour and a quarter. In an hour and a quarter, your plane is leaving. Bags need to be packed. You need to bid farewell to your friends and family. You need to be there on time. But in your reality, the airplane doesn't yet exist. The tickets don't exist. Kennedy Airport. Yes, it's hard to live this way, even though we all know it's true. Because in your world, at that time, I am for that. All right? Today, a group called Mosai has new melodies. We'll see it. No, it's a brand new song, so we'll hopefully enjoy it. Thank you to my Patreon sponsors, Pest Pro Riddle, Tarzan Orchids, Dinity Design, Dr. Sue, not Dr. Sue Spitzer, Bracha Biederman, Avi G, and Reza Musavi. You guys make it all possible, so thank you very, very much about that. We're going to go see Harmony tonight, so that's going to be really, really cool. You close to him, make it a great and glorious day. Be the reason someone smiles, and I will, God willing, talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
לעולם הבא שנר ניצב עליו מביט עליו ובוחן כליות ולב עם עובדו כראוי. בראשית ברא אלוקים את השמיים ואת הארץ. בראשית ברא אלוקים את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושיננתם לבניכם ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך יאי ובלכתך בדרך. יגעתי ולא מבין יגעתי ומצאתי תאמין ואהבת לרעך כמוך. רבי עקיבא אומר זה כלל גדול בתורה וזה כל אדם בתכלית בריאתו ובריאת כל העולמות עליונים ותחתונים להיות לו יתברך דירה בתחתונים. ישמח ישראל בעושיו פירוש שכל מי שהוא מזרע ישראל יש לו לשמוח בשמחת השם. ששש ושמח בדירתו. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach. We want Mashiach. I now. I